Are you ready? The Cornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Cornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Cornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cornelia Stephanie Show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I have my beautiful co-host today with me, Susan Hayes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cornelia. Thank you for having me. And thank you for those who are tuning in right now and who watch the replay.
Yes, I want to be able to properly introduce you. So you speak to empower. That's what your brand is. Susan Hayes, the Spark Activator, is the CEO of Active Abundance LLC. She shows women who have experienced significant loss and are ready to reemerge how to reignite their spark of joy. She takes them on a loving and joyful healing journey so that they can boldly and blissfully embrace the next chapter in their lives. It has been through Susan's own significant loss of the passing of her beloved husband that has set her on her current path. This loss has served as a catalyst for the tremendous growth as it has exposed the unhealed wounds from her childhood. Through her journey, she has discovered powerful and magical tools and strategies that show others how to honor and heal their grief, current and from childhood traumas, so that joy is in the forefront once again. Or maybe sometimes I want to say, even for the first time. Prior to losing her husband, Susan served as a set therapist, structural energetic therapist for children and adults. As a set therapist, she facilitated physical, emotional wellness through rehabilitative massage, breathwork, brain detox, and remote healing. She's also been trained and certified in a multitude of energy healing modalities such as Reiki and polarity, which she infuses into all that she offers. Susan also draws upon more than 20 years of experience as a teacher of young children. Susan empowers others as keynote speaker, a transformational mindset coach, writer, and intuitive healer. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I really appreciate it, Cornelia.
Yeah, we want to acknowledge all the things that you have accomplished and achieved and are, doing in the world to be of service, right? To be of service. So one of the things you and I were talking about in the green room before we started the show today is that, originally we were going to focus on the loss of your husband, which has been, you said, about 3.5 years now, right?
Right.
Right. And now you mentioned today that there's a backstory to the loss of your husband. So your husband passed away about 3.5 years ago. Take us what happened and then take us into the backstory.
Absolutely. Yes, it's just amazing how things are unfolding and just in divine timing. So my husband died 3.5 years ago after a 3.5 year battle with throat cancer. It only stayed in the throat. It never moved beyond that. And the last 9 months, he wasn't able to speak. He wasn't even able to swallow food or even his own saliva. It was pretty, I had a lot of anticipatory grief. Fortunately, during that time, we were able to have a deeper relationship because we thought, we don't know how much more time we have with one another. But even knowing that he could die, it was when he actually did die that I just didn't expect the grief that I felt. It was the worst kind of physical and emotional pain I had ever felt in my life that I remember. And I just wanted to feel way better right away. And what I recognized through my journey of reaching out to so many holistic coaches and practitioners and meditation was a lot of my grief yes, was related to my husband. This is where the backstory comes in. Because I had so much alone time now, there was a lot of time for introspection and reflection, and there was no more distractions. I wasn't busy taking care of my husband, raising stepkids. It was just me. Without the distraction, the new attraction was me, myself, and I. And I realized that the bigger loss and the grief that I had with my husband was exasperated by the loss of my innocence as a child, the loss of who I thought I was, the real me, the authentic me, that, like anybody, is only love, is pure love. And the loss of that innocence was repeated rape throughout my childhood. And so this is like my first time really coming out and saying this on a video in live. So thank you for Cornelia, for, obviously I feel safe enough and comfortable enough to do that with you. It's divine timing. But that was the backstory. And although I had done lots of healing with it, there was still a lot of healing that needed to be done. That my husband's death just, it was like reopening old wounds, and it was like that were not healed. So in that sense, my husband's passing was actually a gift. It was a gift in that sense, because it was like, whoa, let me take a look at this stuff and let me really go in, dive in deep to truly, truly heal it, because it was really exasperating my grief that was already there. And I find that, and I may be wrong, but some people that I've worked with, where there's usually other things going on that the death of a loved one triggers. So that's what I have found to be fascinating.
Well, I mean, my gosh, you said, in a sense, it was a gift. Your husband's passing was a gift. So you had been carrying, because then I just have so much compassion for you, to, all the way up until your husband's passing, have been carrying these unresolved wounding, right, with you. And then with his passing, then you were able to see it and once and for all heal it and process it and feel it and make peace with it and put it to rest, right? And which was very challenging to do. It's during a time of loss. The question that I have, that I came up with while you were talking, when you were talking about the passing of your husband, did you already have a relationship with the God of your understanding, source, the universe, before your husband passed? Did you already have that?
Yes, I did, thank goodness. And I feel that had brought me much greater ease through that transition, because I felt like I understood the bigger picture. And I actually got the sense, all right, I just know, it's a knowing, that this was a soul contract that we had made before my husband and I were even born.
Yeah.
Before we were even born, this is how we were going to play it out, to learn the lessons, to spiritually grow the way that would allow us to grow exponentially. Because people would be like, what do you mean your husband chose to die, chose to have cancer? Nobody would choose that on a conscious level, I don't think. But before we're born, we want to experience things, because it is often the adversity that is a tremendous catalyst for exponential growth. And so that was my understanding. And it certainly helped to know that.
Yeah, well, it's great that you already had a relationship with the God of your understanding, source energy, with God, whatever your definition of God is. That's really cool that you had that, because I remember the time, like what brought me to my knees the first time when I lost a beloved, which was my stepfather. When my stepfather passed away, I think it was like in 1984 or something like that. That was the catalyst for opening me to the spiritual world. And because then I started going on, because I couldn't understand, like, now what? Like, what happens when you have such a beautiful, healthy man who is so vibrant and so vigorous still, where he was in his age, And how is it possible a God-loving man and all the things that he was doing in his life, and now what happens? So when he passed away, that is then when I went into this deeper journey of asking those
Mm.
questions like, what happens when we die? Where do we go? That kind of thing. So in that sense, that was a gift also, because it started me on my spiritual journey in that way, to really start exploring what happens to us then. And always, no matter what we go through, no matter what contract we incarnate in, it always comes down to our perception of it in the end, right? Like, seeing that you and your husband incarnated, you guys had this agreement to experience this together, to be married. And I also feel like we now, as humans, are awake and aware enough that we can override, because we know how to heal. Our physical
Mm.
bodies are able to heal and regenerate, especially if we do that deeper energetic work. When we do the emotional work, when we do the spiritual work, when we do the mental work, we do that work. And if there's no reason, no emotional suppression being suppressed in the physical body, then there's no disease that needs to live there. So in that sense, do you see what I mean? We have the power
Absolutely.
to override, because originally when we incarnated, we might have incarnated to come in and slip out. We have these exit points, is what I like to call them. Like, okay, this could be an exit point, this could be an exit point. But I also feel like if we as a soul get get to a point where we, hey, I don't want to get out on this exit point. This is actually where I am today. Is really
Mm.
kind of like, I've overridden all the death programs myself from,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Do you see?
Yeah, it's interesting because my husband and I feel like we both mirrored each other in terms of our lack of self-worth and self-hatred just from childhood events.
Yeah.
I did a lot of the deep healing prior to him even getting sick. In fact, I had moved out of state to Florida that's when I started doing this set therapy. In the advanced program, did energy release therapy, and it was powerful stuff. You want to talk about the emotions that were expressed and that came out, and it wasn't always pretty, but it was certainly uglier staying within me. I mean, I had all kinds of jaw pain, stomach issues, headaches, neck pain. I had constant pain pretty much my whole life. And I found that as I was like 2 years, like really consistently doing this program, my pain started going away. I started seeing things differently. Like you said, it's all about perception. All of a sudden, my perception was a little bit more expansive, and things that used to bother me no longer bothered me. It was like, yeah, big deal, or I could understand it better. And so I'm so grateful for that, because that healing made it easier. So to help with my husband and help take care of him, and it's interesting because he had 2 sessions of the emotional energy release therapy, and he cried, sobbed like he has never sobbed before. He came home and told me, he goes, I don't know what that was. He goes, I don't even know where my tears came from. He goes, I've never cried like that ever. I said, well, maybe you need to cry more often like that. He went back a second time, same thing. He goes, I'm not going back. I said, why? He goes, I don't like it. And I think he was uncomfortable being vulnerable.
Yep.
You're taught that, oh, you're a man, you can't cry, you got to be
Right.
tough, you got to be like strong, and it's what was starting to heal him. So it's just was his journey. It was the juxtaposition, but it was interesting.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like your husband didn't feel safe to express his emotions the same way that you just said, what was coming out of my mouth, the things that I was saying, wasn't pretty, because a lot of the things that you were releasing and letting go in your emotional release, through your emotional release, those were some deep, deep, painful traumas and injustices that happened to you in this incarnation, but probably other lives as well, because,
Oh,
right? You know,
Yeah, lives, there were many lives, other lives that came up during many of those sessions that I became aware of. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean,
Fascinating.
that's what I mean. It's that, we're doing so much work on so many levels, in our awakening, remembering who we are and healing and forgiving and releasing and letting go. And the other thing is in doing that, we have to be able to be willing to feel, like you said, all of the discomfort, all of the pain, and to release it and let it go. And it's been harder for men to do that because of our conditioned society that has made expressing emotion, tears, uh, to be seen as a weakness instead of as a strength.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I can understand. I know for some people, women or men, that it's not about like maybe expressing it all at once, like let it all come out at once. It's like, but you've got to be able to siphon it out. Sometimes it's overwhelming or maybe too much to have it all come out, but at least working towards that, siphoning it out at your comfort zone, well, not too comfort. You've got to be willing to be some uncomfortable, because then it becomes really uncomfortable within. And that's where, as you said, there's a lot of dis-ease. There's a reason why the word ease is in that. If we can express those so-called negative emotions, it's actually how we become whole. That's how we integrate it, is by feeling those so-called negative emotions. So it's like messy when we're going through it. And people are like, what the frig, man? What is going on with me? I feel worse. It's like, no, you think you feel worse. You're moving it out and you're going to feel better than ever.
Because what happens when you say you're going to feel better than ever is that once it's expressed, once the emotion has been acknowledged, the self has realized the pain, felt the pain, in it, feel it to heal it, and you're sitting in it. What happens is we start to begin to feel lighter and higher and better. And that's the thing, is that like you said earlier, my jaw, all the pain
Mm.
started dissolving, is because before the pain was held in the jaw. That you absolutely needed to speak and release and let it all out. And of course, we can't let it all out in one. It's all done in stages. I remember when I started my healing journey back in the day. I remember this is how I felt. I felt like my body was a kettle, and the kettle was full
Mm.
of pain. I
Mm.
felt like there was a pressure cooker inside, and like I need to let the top off, right? Like take the top off, and then to release some of the pressure and really start looking at all of the pain that's there.
I love that analogy. I've used that analogy quite myself. I think it's a great analogy. I think that's just it, because it builds, and there's tension in the body. Unless we release it, you just have more and more pain. And that was my husband. It was in the throat, and it was literally, I won't get into too many details, but I mean, it was not pretty.
Yeah,
It's just,
it must have been really hard for you to accept your husband's choice,
it was. I was mad at him.
right?
That was another thing that I think exacerbated the grief, because even though I said, do what feels right, you have to honor yourself and your choice. But deep down, I'm like, what the frig, man? We're supposed to have this long life. I'm like, I can't believe you did that. And it triggered that part of me that felt abandoned when I was a child. Like, what, the part of not like, where is everybody? Like, I'm getting raped here. Like, how come nobody's, helping me out, noticing or taking care of me? So it triggered that and feeling abandoned again. So I realized it was like, oh, there's that default pattern, and it triggered. And I also felt betrayed. Like, I actually felt betrayed that he died and like he left me. And I realized that was another default pattern that I had to work through. So yeah, I was angry. I was
Yeah,
sad and angry.
that I would have been angry too. I had a really good friend who I really felt like, you're not fighting. You're not
Mm-hmm.
fighting for your life. You have to want to fight. You have to want your life. You have to want it. And I felt like he wasn't fighting anymore. He's given up the fight. And it's like, come on, fight. And but at some point, we have to accept people's choices, what choices they make. And then that's hard. That's why I can say to you, that must have been hard
Yeah.
for you.
It was, and then, and again, when you're able to at least express that anger and acknowledge it, I mean, because people are like, what do you mean you were mad? Like, you're afraid to say it sometimes, like, what's wrong with you? You're mad at your husband? He died of cancer. Come on. I had to be honest with myself, because not expressing it, it's still within me. I'm still feeling it, whether I choose to express it or not. So I expressed it my own way. And I didn't share it with certain people. I expressed it my own way. And then it allowed me to open myself up to a bigger picture and understanding, because my husband did fight. He did so much. And I think that was just, I felt like, well, what went wrong? Like, I don't understand it. And I really do believe that he even chose the journey the way he did to just show others the importance of expressing their emotions and what can happen if you don't. So that was perhaps his purpose. So I'm like, okay, he was successful in that sense. We think, oh, they died of cancer. They didn't do enough. They didn't eat right. There's so much judgment about it. And what if that was to show us? And the miracle happens whether they survive cancer and live on in the 3D, in the physical body, or whether they pass on and transition. I mean, I know we're so much more, that we're in spirit. So that's where he's no longer in pain and no longer has cancer. I mean, he sent me a message saying, I'm free. I'm free. I have no more pain because I don't have a body.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, what's next for you now? I know, like, this week was a huge, I don't know about you, but these energies, these last 3 months
Ooh,
have been like ridiculously intense. And
yes.
I tell you. So it's like, wow, we need a vacation or maybe a sabbatical. Sounds good. But what's next for you? Like, what are you working on? I know you were talking about that you had this epiphany, and are you still integrating that? And then maybe, sitting with that for a while before you come out about it, or
Yes, I feel like I'm integrating in that. I knew what I'm being guided to do is to step back. I was supposed to start a program tomorrow. I got, yes, you will do that at some point. Now's not the time. So it's accepting that, because I was like, you've been promoting and all that, it'll have a different feel to it with this new epiphany.
yeah,
And
yeah.
my messaging will be a little bit different. So I'm integrating all that, especially when you just feel like you finally get your messaging and it's like, well, no, it's all right. As we shift, things shift, our messaging shifts. So I've just published another book, The South Beach Diet of Joy, Reigniting the Spark Within. So that one is a pretty powerful book. Very much looking from more of a 5D perspective. And I will look at maybe doing a program. I'm really focusing on speaking, speaking more about this, and I may tweak those speeches a little bit, and what is going to make the biggest impact for people, and what will be able to allow them to feel empowered and to perhaps heal. So yeah, I've got some integrating to do and something to think about.
So where is your target as far as speaking is concerned? Like, who's your audience? Where are you speaking at? To?
Right now, it's mainly on podcast. I've
Yeah.
had a few opportunities that have, maybe because it was divine timing, that haven't worked out for various reasons. The conference is canceled at the last minute, or yes. Anyways, so I talk more about the power of receiving and the connection with emotional and disease and ease.
Yeah.
Now it'll probably have a different spin, and I may speak more to an audience who's had that loss of innocence, their child in sexual trauma. I realize that in that grief. So still grief in general, but that'll probably be more of a focal point.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big, huge healing. A lot of people will be able to resonate with that because people, that are still walking around with that pain.
Yeah, and yeah, being in Italy here, I won't get into it, but we need to get in touch with our divine feminine, and often we lose that when we've had trauma, sexual trauma at such a young age. So it's about balancing those energies.
Yeah. I mean, the divine feminine is here. The divine feminine is a frequency that is here, on this planet that has been the clarion call for
Mm.
this planet because of all the pain and trauma. I like to say that God wanted her planet back. And that's what I like to say is that God wanted her planet back. And now the divine feminine is here in all of us, making the higher call, making the nurturing call, making the healing call, making the empowerment call, making that call in all of us. But these are choices that we all have to make because we're all here to save ourselves because we can.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that last part. It's like some people are looking for a savior. I'm like, no, the savior is you.
Yes.
It's in every one of us. And we save us, heal ourselves. That reverberates. And then that's really how we heal the planet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, this is where, the religious programming, I'm sure you experienced that in Italy, with the Catholic religion. And that is that, that's where I think all the religions had missed the boat because there was a ceiling. And they never went above the ceiling. They capped
Mm.
at the ceiling, always looking outside of looking in the sky to find God in the sky, or whatever, and never looking within to find
You
God
know,
within.
See, I think what I have found, knowing so many people who are very religious, I have found that religion, it's more on, we talk about that perception. It's more of how someone interprets the religion that they have chosen to adopt. And I have found people that have been able to enhance their life and the amount of joy and love they bring within and for others, and others it limits them.
Yep.
And so I think it's really on how people interpret their own religion, and it can be restrictive if people allow it, if people are more open and taking what makes sense and not saying, okay, it says this religion says this, and this. I'm not sure about this aspect of it. So it's having that open mind and really using discernment that's important.
I want to say that whatever religion that people subscribe to, stand in it. Stand
Mm,
in it, be in it, let it be your faith, let it be your
mm,
passionate way of expressing source, expressing the creative life force, expressing oneness,
mm,
let it be that. So, but whatever it is, stand in your faith. It could be any religion. It could be Buddha. It could be, you know any whatever you believe in, whatever your faith is, but stand in it and be in it because
yeah.
I like to watch Christians that are really deeply devoted to God, that are passionately sharing that message, and then I can go over here and watch people that are monks, and I can go over here and I can watch and I love seeing people in their faith. So whatever faith they have, be in it and be in it all the way, representing your belief in your divine.
Yeah, I agree. And whether it's a religion or not, and even atheists, it's like as long as I think the most important piece, whether you subscribe to religion or not, is to stand in oneness with yourself and with love. And yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, stand in it, stand in what you believe in because you're the role model. You're the
Mhm.
example. You're the frequency holder. You're the one that is, expressing yourself, expressing your love, your joy. You're the one. It's in you. And yeah. So let's tell the audience where they can find you more, like what your social media handles are.
So I'm keeping it simple, folks. Real simple, okay? Susan Hayes Speaks. It's Hayes. Just Susan Hayes Speaks is my website. It's my Facebook page. It's my LinkedIn page. That is where you can find pretty much everything. And so even on my website, it has the links to my social media. So SusanHayesSpeaks.com.
That's
Keeping
good.
it,
I love
yeah,
that.
keeping it simple.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the speaking. Yeah. And I love the speaking piece because it is about the communication. It is about the speaking. It is about the expressing. And, in every opportunity that you have with anyone that you're speaking to, just like we're speaking here now. So, yeah. Well, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I definitely want to have you on again. So, what are you going to do now in the next couple months? Are you integrating your new realization?
So at the very next, I can tell you what I'm doing for the next couple of weeks. I'm going back to the States to visit my mom who had a fall. She's doing great, but so it's guiding me to do what needs to be done right now and spend some family time. And during that is just continuing and promoting my latest book, and then seeing what Source would like me to do next. Like, how do I handle this new epiphany? Do I have another program? I've reached out to a couple of people that can mentor me and help me, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I'm hoping it won't take a couple of months, but Source will, I'll follow my divine guidance and just honor that. We're so taught to just like keep pushing, and I'm being told to step back.
Yeah. It right now is a pause time. I'm definitely feeling that too. It's not a push forward. It is going back, reflecting, reorganizing, that kind of thing, and listening. So, Susan, yeah, listening, right? So, anyway, Susan, well, I thank you so much for coming on today. We want to thank the beloved audience for joining us. And thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing to this video. And we're also going to send this out to 50 plus media outlets probably by next week. Woohoo! So
thank you so much, Karen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll most likely do that. I have to look in our queue and see what's there. But I think we have an open spot next week that we can work that in. And so that'll go out. And we want to thank everybody. Thank you, Susan, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Cornelia, so much. And thank you for those who hopped on. I really had a marvelous time. Mwah. Un bacione, as they say from Italy. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao, Bella.